What's up, and welcome back to another Lions Nation draft breakdown for the Detroit Lions. I'm Eazy. I'm joined by my man Scott, and today we're breaking down the defensive tackle prospects for the Detroit Lions. And again, the realistic ones. We can talk about Mason Graham if you like, but it's probably not going to happen. Lions are picking at 28 because they're a really good team, and only the bad teams get opportunities to draft guys like that. But first and foremost, Scott, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm happy to be joining you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Anything from the combine catch your eyes? Any interviews that you were like, oh,
Um,
I'm still waiting for measurements. Is that today?
so we'll get those today. Actually,
Okay.
probably right about now, because the linebackers and D line are measuring today. What I think is smart because it's going to be tough for. It used to be some of the prospects would play the game of like when you wait in the day before, they'd get real heavy with water,
Yeah.
and then I waited 248 today, and then a day later they're 235 or whatever,
Yeah.
running fast. But you're not going to be able to do that anymore. But the one thing that did stand out, and it's a player we talked about last week, Donovan Ezeraku. If you listen to his combine interview, it just reeks Dan Campbell, grit, Detroit Lions stuff. It just does.
Yeah.
Like,
I saw a couple quotes come out. I was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that dude arranged meetings with offensive linemen to understand how to attack them better.
That's awesome.
Right? He spoke in ways which you think, okay, dude gets it. So,
Yeah.
But there was a lot of there's a lot of stuff. It's a bummer that we're not going to have some players who you want to run, you want to see test and all that stuff. No Tyler Warren, no Colston Loveland, no Elijah Arroyo for the tight ends. It sounds like Will Johnson is not running. I'm not sure Travis Hunter is going to do anything. We're not going to see Cam Ward and Shador Sanders throw. I mean, there's still going to be really cool stuff, but it's just,
For me, every year it is the defensive line, edge prospects. It's just the 10-yard splits. I mean, the 40s are cool. When guy like a Kenneth Grant runs like a 4.7 or something like that, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, that's all cool and stuff, but
yeah,
if your D tackle has to run 40 yards, you got a problem.
Exactly.
Right. So it's that one is more for the D line guys. It's more the 10-yard split that tells you things, and the broad jump, the vertical jump, that kind of stuff where it measures
explosiveness
in your in your legs and your lower half and stuff. There are other drills that are more important for certain positions. The short shuttle is really important for interior offensive linemen. Seriously important.
It's crazy. I think I was with you when we saw the stat of like all the guys. I forget the time it was, but it was like
4.49.
Yes.
If you find a interior O lineman who breaks that time, draft him.
Yep.
Kind of like, I mean, you don't have to overdraft him, but like, if you're considering that dude in round 4,
that's a confirmation.
And that number should probably trump a bunch of other things.
Yep.
Because the players who have hit it's absurd.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a specific comment because I wanted to ask you this before we got started because we got a lot of comments on our video. A guy that was around, could be around pick 28. I think it'd be more like pick 60. Jack Sawyer. We didn't talk about him last time, but some people want to know why we weren't talking about him.
I thought we did talk about him at the end a little bit. I could be confusing it, but I think that Sawyer to me is a maxed out player who's not going to get much bigger, much stronger. He's lived at Ohio State sort of bullying tight ends and tackles at the end of the line of scrimmage because he is strong and powerful and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's not a lot of quickness and bend and all that stuff to his game. So you're right. I think for me, I wouldn't be looking at him at pick 28. I just, I think that for me, Sawyer is a high floor, low ceiling kind of prospect. And even at pick 28, I think you want to swing a little bit on some of those guys.
Yeah.
Like I know we talked about Ezeraku, right? Ezeraku is going to be maybe 8 to 10 pounds lighter than Sawyer, but shorter. So he's going to play with better leverage. But I think he can fill out his frame a little where I think Sawyer's sort of a finished product coming into the NFL. Very good college player.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know that you're going to get a ton of upside with that kind of player. And I'm not hating on him. I mean, he was a really good player on Ohio State.
Yeah. I want to provide some context. I know a lot of people are commenting and asking about him, and I feel the same way. It's kind of boxy. Just too early of a 28 is too early to grab a guy like that, I guess, is my opinion on it.
But in defense of the people making the comments, we kind of framed it that way. That at the end of the day, come draft day, you're probably going to take a player at 28 that you feel like, oh, I'd love that guy at 35, right? And so I get it. If you could trade back and still get a player like some of the guys we talked about, cool. I think Sawyer is a lesser than version of some of the players we did kind of outline, and I would just prioritizing him lower on where they would be. Again, that's just me doing it. They may love him. I don't know. We'll see.
And then one last one before jumping to defensive tackles, Landon Jackson. Me personally, just kind of boxy, upright.
Stiff.
No bend. Yeah. Good motor, strong, big guy. Not 28 material.
No. I mean, if somebody does
60.
I'm not, cool, I suppose. There's very little, I don't want to say no, there's very little bend, very little outside shoulder winning happening with a player like that. It's all power. And I think that there's some footwork issues with the way he sets up power. And, you can see him at times play with power and all that stuff, but I just, to me, he's a run defender only. You got to do that kind of stuff, but again, prioritizing that stuff later, because at pick 28, you want some level of production from out of pass rush, and I don't think you're going to get that at all with him.
Yeah,
I'm not a real big fan of his game.
I'm with you on that one. Just want to get that out there for the people who are commenting. Thank you guys for commenting. Again, this exact same video, guys, that we may have missed. Maybe we'll touch on next week briefly. Comment down below what defensive tackles you like, and we'll jump into the list.
And honestly, we're going to talk about sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
We're going to talk about 6 defensive tackles today. But I don't think that some of these I don't think that some of the dudes I picked are going to be in the range at 28. That's rich for where these guys are. There might be other tackles ahead of some of where, like where these 2 in particular, where, there's going to be other tackles who are going to go ahead of these guys, but we wanted to kind of throw a blanket sort of, there are 3 different types we're going to talk about. We could probably do another D tackle video and hit up 4 or 5 more. And some of those guys would be more in range and in say the 30s than perhaps 2 of the guys we're going to talk about, today. So, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, you're good, man. I want to start with a guy that I think is just ready to go. I feel like this draft pick is almost like signing a free agent because he's up there in age, and I don't mean that to in a discriminatory way. But Darius Alexander out of Toledo, big body guy, lots of power, but he's going to be 25 when the season actually starts, 24, 25?
I have no idea how old he is. I probably should have looked at that. No clue.
I think he's a 6-year senior, 6'4", 304 pounds, 310 pounds. Some are saying, I think it's 304 at the Senior Bowl. Give us your take, man. You put him on the list.
So, it's a player with really good length, the versatility to line up all over the place, but more of now he is one of the more traditional 3-tech players that you would draft. I don't know that you're playing him. You can play him all over the place, but he's a 3-tech, and that's where he's going to win. And he's going to win. He's going to win because he's got quickness and power in his hands, and he understands angles. So I think that there's a natural place for him there, both with McNeil maybe not being ready and then backing up McNeil when McNeil does return and giving you lots of depth and lots of upside down the road, right? So it's really good length. You can see him extend and shed and all that stuff. He's got power in his hands. He fights off blocks pretty well. You can see him consistently trying to find ways to win. So there's a little bit. I'm not saying that he's lacking. I'm not saying he's lacking a pass rush plan.
Mm-hmm.
But what I am saying is that he's constantly doing things. He just doesn't stay blocked, right? So instead of staying blocked, he's doing things to try to disengage, to try to penetrate all those things, which is good. I think that with him, it's pad level, and a lot of these guys we're going to talk about that with. There's a pad level issue.
Yeah.
As his pad level rises, I think that you can see that happening later in games, where he may get tired, and then he will take. There's inconsistencies with like the on-off switch kind of stuff, and when he does take plays off, it's because his pad level rises to the point where he can just be moved off the ball fairly easily. But when he's on, when he's low, and when he's really going with that first step, he's a problem. There are times when it looks like he is comfortable just beating the hell out of the offensive alignment. I'm just gonna bully you. It's like, whoa, the running back just ran next to you, tackle him. But it's almost like, no, I'm cool. I'm cool bullying this guy and pushing him 6-7 yards deep. So there are times when he will get a little bit too far up the field, but again, he has a nice first step that combines with power to jolt offensive linemen back. And then you can see him working a bunch of different things as a pass rusher, interior pass rusher. So you're not going to, we're not talking about a ton of productivity there, but the ability to do it is huge from the interior. So, he can do all those things. One of the things that stands out with the way he plays is he gets into gaps and understands how to defeat blockers using their inside and outside shoulders with his hands, which is impressive, right? But is he a player that you take at 28? Maybe. I think that if there's no edge, and this is the caveat, if there's no edge that you love at 28, D tackle is a pretty natural place to kind of look to, because you don't know what you're going to get with McNeil coming back from the ACL tear. You don't know when he's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not like there isn't a need behind him. I think they're going to lose Onzarike. So yeah, I mean, they need one, and he certainly fits that traditional 3-tech role.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said too. Raw power, long arms, and just and I know he played at Toledo, and so maybe we're seeing
no, Toledo's really coached well. They have a bunch of dudes there. I mean, Quinion Mitchell came from Toledo. The Eagles drafted him early in round 1 last year. They have dudes. They just do. Toledo's got dudes. They're well coached.
I was going to say, like, beyond, like, if anyone wanted to throw it in their face, I still see the motor there for him. Like when he is in pursuit mode, attack mode.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, like you said, 3-tech, you want to put him in the middle to stop some run. Like, I'm there for it.
Yeah.
I should have started with this name, so that's bad on me. I was just curious to hear you about Darius Alexander because of the age and because Toledo. I should have started with the section name for the audience. How about Derek Harman, a Detroit native, former MSU Spartan, went to Oregon, had a hell of a season this year. 6'5", 310 pounds. What's your take on Derek Harman? Does he even make it to 28?
He may or may not. Boy, that's a great answer, huh?
That seems off, to be fair, except for some of these guys.
He had so he was at Michigan State. He had to remake his body going to Oregon. He is another one of those guys who works with Des Walker down in the Atlanta area with pass rush skills. So you know that he's getting really good coaching.
Yeah,
he's explosive. I will say that he has a strange body where it looks like he's carrying significant amount of weight above his waist.
Yeah.
And that's at Oregon, where he's got skinny legs, and it's just like, I mean, he's powered up, but you'd like to see a little more, I'd like to. I mean, he just has a strange build, right? But whatever. He's he's a little top heavy.
Yeah, he's built like a I don't even know, like a cabinet or something. I'm not explaining.
Yeah, and he's got. It looks like he has kind of like thinner hips, so he may not be able to add.
It could have been like 55 on the jersey throwing you off there too. I know it's throwing me off.
It does. I mean, and that's a thing. Like if you watch, as an example, watch Tyler Warren run, and you think, "Wow, this dude's a little plodding. He's kind of slow."
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's not. Right.
Yeah.
So, if Derek Harman wore number 11, we would think he is the lightest cat on the planet, right? But he remade his body going to Oregon. Looks top heavy, but he can scoot. He wins inside, outside. He wins with physicality all over the line of scrimmage, up and down. Again, this is a guy who I think should play as a 3-tech and will just eat things up. Can he play in other places? Yeah. But as a 3-tech, he's going to eat things up, especially if you give him one-on-one situations. Like, if you give him the ability to play one-on-one, he's going to win. You can see him, and this is a good thing. You can see him fight pressure with pressure when teams try to reach him. So if he's further away from the ball, teams are going to want to try to reach him and seal him, and you can see him really fight through that, which is a good thing. So he understands where leverage is. He understands where he can't lose. He's got really heavy hands. You can see him pretty easily jolt offensive linemen backwards with the heavy hands, and then just kind of disengage, shed those guys, and run with some pretty serious lateral juice to make plays against the run. He's got it. He does. And then the only thing that there's the pad level and all that stuff is an issue for all these guys, but with him, there's some stance stuff that's really weird. And sometimes he'll tilt. Like, let's say he's playing between the guard and the tackle, and he'll tilt himself. And I don't know if it's because they're running stunts, and maybe the end is just missing his assignment or whatever it is. But he'll tilt himself and kind of aiming point more the inside shoulder of the tackle, when you would think that he would be kind of, his aiming point should be the outside shoulder of the guard. And then the one thing he does give away in his stance is which foot he's coming off of, which tells you kind of where he's going. So let's play a game of, if he's playing as a 3 and he's between the guard and the tackle, if he's if he's loading up on his right foot and stepping off with his left foot, he's going inside because his first step is coming off his left foot. If he's loading up with his left foot and coming off with his right foot, he's going outside. And it's like, you can see in his stance that he does give that stuff away. So you would think that would be something that they would clean up very quickly, but it's never a good thing to tell the guard which way. Hey, I'm going to your right. The problem for the guards are, even though he does give that stuff away, he still beats them. So it's good. He would be with what they want to be, with what they want to do as a defense. He would make a ton of sense at 28. I think to me, and this is just a personal thing, he makes more sense at 28 than I think any of these guys do. If we go Walter Nolan next, I think Walter Nolan is long gone before the Lions pick. Yes. So I'm not really including him so much in the conversation at 28. We're going to talk about him today. Yeah. But to me, Harman is the guy you look at 28 and you think, if they make that pick, it makes a ton of sense. And good, cool.
Yeah. Only things for me with Derek Harman was just like the up and down with like his body type. I know he figured it out at Oregon, but it was just that 1 year. Is there going to be some consistency there? I felt like, and like you said too, a lot of these guys, because a lot of them are bigger dudes, the pad level at times is up there, and I feel like he got lost in the run game sometimes. But the game I was watching him against Donovan Jackson, Ohio State, he had that one play where he gets behind the line of scrimmage and just literally rips the ball from the running back.
Yep.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6'5", so he's going to have to fight that pad level stuff. But he's so quick and powerful.
Got natural power, man. You could just
tell.
He
does. Yeah. He's a bully. Yeah. He's a dude. I mean, he's one of the guys in this class that, can do a variety of things and is athletic enough to make plays happen while being powerful enough to hold up against the run and all those things. Where some of the other guys we're going to talk about are not going to hold up against the run. He will. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
He's just so long too. I feel like he just line up multiple different places too if they wanted. Yeah. And I know we like to do different things with our linemen. Let's get to the other name you mentioned. Another sexy name people want to hear about, Walter Nolan. Some of these defensive lines there's so many like names on here that are high in talent, but the teams really produce that level. It drives me crazy. Walter Nolan, Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken, 6'3", 305 pounds, 33-inch arms, a 12% pass rush win rate. What's your take, man?
So I think he's going to be smaller than that. I want to say he was like 290 something at the Senior Bowl. Not that that's small by any stretch, but for some teams, they might view that as a touch undersized to play as a 3. Like, the old Martin Mayhew thing, like he'd be too small Aaron Donald's too small to play for us kind of stuff. Right. Watching him is fun because he's one of those guys. He's one of the interior defensive players in this class with first step quickness to just create, he's big, he's got long arms, but his first step is silly and he's constantly in gaps. Like he is in the gap all the time, right?
He was beating Jaden Ivey and a lot of those guys off the line when I was watching.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. I think that Ole Miss did that, where I think that they did ask their edge players to play a little more contained, because they knew they were getting pressure up the middle, right? And they just let him go. So you can see his first step. There's plenty of pop in his hands when he uses them. He doesn't always use them. And that's kind of one of the knocks that I think that there's going to be with him is that, he's got an elite first step or a really, really an excellent first step. But after that first step, what's there? Right. So sometimes sometimes just getting into the gap and winning a gap is not good enough or not enough. Right. So then you have to ask, what's next? What do you do? Do you flatten down the line and make plays, or you just kind of hang out there and have already won your gap? There's a lot of times where you see him just win his gap, but then, it leads me to question, like, what's next, right? Like, put a move together, do something, it sounds like I'm ripping on him. I'm not. He's got really good ability to win at the line of scrimmage into gaps, but then I want to see more from them, right? There's plenty of pop in his hands again when he uses them. He's disruptive all the time because what he does is he's sort of on the toes of an offensive lineman much quicker than the offensive lineman would prefer, and he's in their face, in their space, all that stuff. And they have a really hard time reacting to that.
Yes.
So then it's sort of lungy, uncomfortable and strange kind of movements from the offensive lineman to kind of recorrect where they are. And if he would string together things, I think he would be considered higher than he already is. To me, he's the top 15 top 20 at least player in this class.
I agree.
And
if he's a 28 man, like I'm all over that, especially with the situation we got Hutch getting double teamed like that guy in a 1-on-1 block scenario. He's kicking I shouldn't swear in this show. I apologize. But he's kicking that guard off the club. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like he's got that security type feel where he's like,
I love
Walter Nolan.
It's awesome to watch him dictate the terms of how they're going to play.
Rude's offensive game plans for sure. Like he's one of the guys who are like, okay, we got to block this guy because we're not running that side today. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a stud.
Yeah. And I mean, he definitely is because he's on the lineman's toes so quick. He's essentially dictating the terms of how they're going to play snap to snap. Right.
Yeah.
Now, can you do that snap to snap over and over and over? No, there's going to be times where, he looks like he's taking plays off or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's, he's an excellent prospect. He really is. He plays low. He's got really good leverage to reset the line of scrimmage because he's kind of underneath. He's like I said, he's he's making contact quicker than they expect. And then he's up under their pads and you can see him move guards and centers back to reset the line of scrimmage, which, you can be productive without getting sacks. That's production.
Yes.
Forcing a quarterback to get off of his spot coming from the inside is a huge thing. It just is.
He looked like an absolute annoyance. It was almost like I don't remember the show, but it was like the three guys, Mo, Harry, and whatever the hell. That's like the offensive line. The Three Stooges. That's how the offensive line looked at times. Like, oh shit, there he goes. Like we lost him. Like, it felt like
he's a pain in the ass. I mean, he really is. He's really disruptive. So the two things for me are, and we've talked about this, is there's just not a lot. He doesn't use his hands well. Mm-hmm. If he did, we're talking about a whole different level of player. Can he develop that? I don't know. We'll see. And then questions around and surround because his game is all predicated on gap disruption. Mm-hmm. How does he hold up against bigger guards, centers, tackles, whatever you want to call it, against the run? And I have questions about whether he can do that consistently enough. He's going to get drafted early, but I think that's the thing with him is you got to work on pad level and power in his, in his lower half to get him to get so that way he's not getting pushed off the ball or getting washed out of gaps.
Yeah.
Because he does want to win with quickness. And if he doesn't win with quickness because he doesn't use his hands great, he will lose at times. He does lose at times, but he's going to lose more in the NFL than he does, at Ole Miss, simply because it's bigger, longer, more power, all that stuff. So those are the issues. And again, we're talking about a pretty elite prospect in this class, probably a top 15 kind of player. And, I know that's nitpicking a little bit about holding up against the run when he's really good at what he does, which is get up the field. So yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of a player who brings a lot of problems to an offensive line, but he's not without some flaws, and there's things that he does have to figure out.
Yeah, he's more of a penetrating defensive tackle than a anchoring down, fill in the gap type of dude. But the other thing too is, like you said, will we be able to do that all game long? Ole Miss, the game I watched, they rotated the defensive line every other series. It felt like, So there's questions there too. But I mean, obviously, if he's at 28, I'm probably sprinting to that point.
Yeah, my guess is somebody will have traded up for him in front. I mean, he's one of the better prospects in this class, and there's not a ton of them. So,
Yeah. Next guy, the Detroit Lions actually did a formal interview with. He won a national championship. A lot of the Michigan fans watching know who he is. Kenneth Grant, who I just got notification he will not be participating in any on-field drills and combine because he's found to have a hamstring strain in his medical evaluation. So he'll be there for the Michigan Pro Day on March 21st, but he will not be participating today, which sucks. I wanted to see his get off. I mean, we know what he's got, though.
He was going to run. He was going to get the Jordan Davis treatment.
Yep.
If you remember back to his combine and all that stuff, he's going to run in the 4.8 range at 340 plus pounds. I don't know what he weighed in at, but whatever. That is super disappointing.
Yes.
He was going to be one of the fun ones today. As far as the tape stuff goes, he's a nose tackle or a one, but I think more a nose who can play in either gap, A gap to A gap kind of stuff. This is a player that you'd be drafting at 28 to take over in the future for DJ Reader.
Yes.
I don't know that there's a huge role for him immediately if Reader is healthy and going, but it does give you a really nice rotation of big, huge space-eating defensive tackles, right, this year. But this is this would be a future in the future kind of pick. I wrote on here he's gonna test like a freak, Jordan Davis like. When he's got his pads and his power right, his bull rush is unstoppable. It just is. The problem is that his pads aren't always right. He stands upright almost immediately after the snap and tends to want to lean, right? And he's big enough at college to be okay doing that. Like, you're leaning with 340, 350 pounds, sometimes probably in the 360 range. But again, when he's got it going in the right direction, when he's got his pads and his power connected, he's unstoppable. He just is. And you can see those plays happen. You can see that stuff develop. He's a smart player. He bats down passes all the time, which is super cool. The thing about him is he's a straight line, very linear athlete. And we saw that. You remember the play where he tracked down the running back?
Yeah, that was awesome.
There was nothing about that where he had to change direction. So he's a straight line runner, which this is why I thought he would test in the 40 silly. I thought it would be ridiculous to look at.
Yeah, that fumble recovery too.
Yeah.
Down there, yeah.
And he's gonna collapse the pocket in the future. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna give you some pass rush, but he's gonna eat up so much space, and then just the idea that he could be very special if he learns to stay and play low. And the other side of it is managing his weight. So if he's going to stay around the 330, 340 range and understand leverage and get there and stay there, we're talking about a very disruptive guy.
Yeah.
But there's questions as to whether he can do that or not. I think, right now there are times when it looks like he stands straight up, and not that he's easy to block, but you're exposing your hip. You're exposing the sides of your body to maybe down blocks or doubles, that kind of stuff, where if you don't expose your body, you're not going to get moved, but he does get moved at times. So it's a little bit of a work in progress with him, but it's undeniable what he looks like when he's going, and when he's got it going right.
And to your point too about him splitting time with DJ Reader, like I'm fine with that. I think he may need that at the NFL level just because of how big he is. And when he's fresh and laser focused, he's damn near unblockable. But then you can see as time goes on, he wears down a little bit. And obviously it makes sense. He's a 334-pound man or however much he's going to weigh.
But you can hear the fans kind of screaming about you took a backup in round one.
Oh, yeah.
In a year in which your Super Bowl window is now. You know what I mean? So, but this is the thing is if they have him graded high enough where they think he's a special talent and he's there at 28, then they'll take him.
Yeah.
They're not going to they're not going to care about, any of that other stuff. If they think that he helps them and is a forward leaning, keep the window open down the road kind of player, they'll take him.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah. I know a lot of people try to downplay the interviews, but I love they do the inside the den. If they're interviewing a guy, they're interested. It's just that simple. And I think that's a big thing. They didn't interview our guy, Shamar, but actually there's no confirmation whether they interviewed or not. I don't think there's any Detroit guys at his media session. As I was following along, they were at like Nick Scortons and whoever else is. I'm sure
they kind of meet with everybody there. So whether or not it was formal or informal or whatever, they're going to meet with him. It's just,
What is the informal? Is that just like passing by and talking?
Kind of. I mean, like at the combine, you can have like 15-minute meetings where they come in. Like we've seen the interview with like Sam Laporta and that kind of stuff. Those are formal interviews.
Yeah.
You can interview whoever you want. Informal would be, hey, we talked to him for, 5 or 7 minutes or something. You know what I mean? Like there's a request. You have to request a formal interview and everything else is informal. Interviews are interviews. Everybody talks to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, the interview guy, you're obviously interested in him. I don't know if they move up or whatever, but I like that. I want to get to this guy real quick just because I didn't know he existed. I'm like, did he mean to type this name in? Are these just two last names that like I have to go and find the first names for? Enus Peebles.
Yep.
And then I put it on the tape. and immediately was just blown away with he's a Tasmanian devil. And this guy, I've never seen the spin move utilized at the defensive tackle position as efficiently and consistently as this guy is. And
it's nasty.
It's disgusting. And it goes beyond that too. He had an overhand. He's relentless.
He's another guy working with Des Walker down in the Atlanta area.
Yeah, this guy was nuts. This is probably the funnest tape I've watched all offseason, if I'm being honest with you. And I was completely blown away.
He is a bringer of chaos.
Yes.
And he is relentless. And his motor is, his motor is at 100 all the time, which sometimes can be detrimental. But undersized defensive tackle, this is the next two guys we're going to talk about are undersized, and whether or not the Lions are even remotely interested in these guys is an unknown at this point. The only counterpoint to that is bringing Casey Rogers on from Tampa Bay as the D-line coordinator or D-line coach, whatever you want to call it. They drafted Kalijah Cansey, very much an undersized prospect, and he has worked very quickly. He worked, and they saw what that ability to penetrate and disruptiveness can do. Maybe that changes the Lions thinking in some ways around these next two guys because they're super disruptive. But again, Lions, like in the past, they've liked bigger players.
Well, they took Mekhi Wingo last year. I know it was late, but and maybe that hurts his odds of coming here because we kind of have that fit. But I'm with you too. Like you have a guy.
They don't have anybody like this.
No, not like this. I agree. They don't. I think Mekhi has a great get off, but like just the multiplicity of moves. And like you said, I think you put it perfectly. A bringer of chaos. Like I said, he's a Tasmanian devil. He's just so damn fun to watch. Yeah. I don't know that I watched enough run tape on him, but obviously the pass rushing reps were amazing.
So that's going to be the problem is that therein lies the issue is that I think he is a pass rush only type of defensive tackle.
So what round do you think?
3?
That's what
4?
I'm thinking.
In that range?
My measurements I found was 6'1", 290.
Yeah, so there's the 22%
pass rush win rate, Scott. 22%. That's insane.
I know it's ridiculous. He is a leverage machine just because of his build. He's short and he's like a fire hydrant. I mean, we talked about Walter Nolan. He's 6'3" and say 290. This guy's 6'1" and say 290, right? Yeah. So, but the leverage that he has snap to snap is silly. And we talked about it with Nolan, how he plays on an offensive lineman's toes, makes him uncomfortable. This guy does it, but to a higher level.
Yeah.
Where you can see the offensive line panicking.
Yeah.
Because of his ability to get up the field. That's why the spin move works so much. It's because they don't know where he's going. They just know he's getting up the field.
It's so gross. Right? I've never seen anyone do that.
It's ridiculous. So he's got leverage and he's up underneath the offensive lineman immediately. He's nasty getting up the field. It's so easy to see. It's obvious to see. Just go turn on a game and watch him get up the field. It's impressive.
I promise you guys it's worth it. It's a bull rush too. Like you think 6'1", 290
is 290 pounds and 6'1", if you can get up the field and you're forcing tackles or guards to respect your ability, and you think about what they have to do. They have to turn their shoulders to kind of kick, stay with you, and you can set that up and then run through them, and they're off balance. It's all. I mean, the bull rush all day long. It's all, he's got it. I mean, it's available to him all day because of his ability to win up the field. Which is, you can say that for any pass rusher. If you have an edge rusher and he's capable of getting up the field, everything is available to him. Inside counters, power, bull rush, ghost moves, all that. It's all available, right? It is for him.
Yeah, I see. He's got a planned pass rush attack. I was gonna say, what the hell was I about to say? A lot of these guys are just uber athletes, so they kind of just like to bowl either way. Like this guy's actually got multiple moves. I did see he's 24, so it kind of makes sense that he has a bag that deep. But like, I don't care about age, to be honest with you. Like I'm drafting you if you're able to go right now, Darius Alexander, Peebles. I'm drafting you to play football on my team right now. Like it's everyone gets a second. Well, not everyone gets a second contract, but if you're good enough, like you're gonna get old at some point. I'm drafting you for your production. If you give it to me now, I don't care how old you are.
Yeah, I hear you. It's, again, they don't have anything like this. His pass rush abilities are obvious to see. He's kind of like he's a wrecking ball, right? I mean, it's kind of like Tasmanian devil, like you said. That's exactly what he is. The problem is that he would be a situational pass rusher only for Detroit right away. He gets moved pretty easily against the run. We mentioned the leverage because he's short, but he does have shorter arms too, and you can see that on film, where if he does allow an offensive lineman into his chest first, he will lose, regardless of what kind of leverage he has. So he's got to be really good about where he strikes and when he strikes. I wrote on here the spin move is silly, as is his hand usage, which is very advanced. And then the last thing I'll say about him is if you want a guy to just generally bring absolute chaos from the interior of the D-line, this is the guy to do it. And I don't think you have to spend really early pick to get that from him. So, I don't know that a lot of teams are going to like him as far as where he's going to go. But if we're talking round 3 range, late round 3, to me, that's a pretty valuable piece, right? Hey, it's 3rd and 10, go kind of stuff. They may not like him, though, just because he is a situational guy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious to see where he goes. I hope he gets put next to a bigger bodied 3 tech guy that, where he can see the field a little bit more because he's got somebody eating some blocks next to him. Maybe Tampa with Vita Vea. I mean, I don't know. Well, they got Cansey. I did send you one other name that I want to talk about. I kind of don't care about that one as much as I want to ask you about this one. And we don't have to if you didn't dive deep into it. And it's my fault for throwing you last minute. But this A&M defensive line, it's so head scratching to me that there wasn't more pass rushing production outside of the pressures. Shamar Turner over there at A&M. Did you have any thoughts or details?
I think he's one of the natural guys to jump ahead of the 2 that we were going to talk about later, right? Like, it's interesting because I don't know if you saw Nick Scorton talk about the A&M kind of like
philosophy or something.
Yeah. So
no,
Scorton played at Purdue and was
sacks.
Yeah, he was allowed to go, right? So it was a more of attacking role. And then he talked openly about how at A&M it wasn't like that at all. So, I don't know if that gives people some sort of comfort with the Shamar Stewart stuff, like the lack of production, because there's a lot more going on there than, getting up the field and winning and attacking and all that stuff. Shamar Turner, who I'm assuming that's who you want to talk about.
Yes.
He's more prototype 3 tech guy than I think Peebles, or we were going to talk about TJ Sanders, but that's fine.
We can talk about him too after. I was just the A&M line is like but now we're getting into it. That's why I want to ask.
It really there's something like I didn't care for Scorton's game all that much. I liked him better at Purdue, but I still think there's Josh Pascal in his game. But with him saying what he said, I think that lends some credibility to the idea that at A&M they weren't asked to be super attacking and aggressive. Shamar Turner is 6'4". I want to say he's like 6'4" and 300. He is.
Yes.
He's got first step quickness. He's relentless. He's aggressive. He's all that stuff. He can win up and down the line of scrimmage. He is, again, he's another one of he's one of those guys that you can see actively working with his hands, he's not cool being blocked, right? He's just not. And given some of what he saw at A&M, he did see some one-on-ones where he did win. I think you could play him as a 3. I think you could play him as a 5. As a 4-eye, there's a variety of things that you can do with him. I do think, just like with some of the other guys, he's got to power up to be able to stand up to like doubles. So can just consider, like with some of the guys that we've talked about, especially Peebles and TJ Sanders and this guy, teams are going to look at him and they're going to say, we're going to run right at him. We're going to run right at him and ask him to defend the run. And then therein lies, the issue is that he's going to have to power up to be able to hold up, as to not get washed out of his gaps, because if that happens, then you've got linebackers who get out of position, and then it's a problem, right? So I can't imagine the Lions being cool with a dude getting washed and moved out of his gap consistently, especially if he's a 3-down player, which I think Turner is. He's just, he's just got to get powered up a little more. I think there is a level of aggression to his game that sometimes can be a little too much. He's taken some personal fouls and some of that kind of stuff, but you are seeing a guy who moves his feet all the time and is constantly working his hands at a pretty good size with some good get off. So, there's a lot to like about his game. I would think that I would put him on the Darius Alexander side of, I don't love him at 28, but maybe in the early 30s. I think this is where Shamar Sanders is kind of at for me.
Yeah. I appreciate you doing that too. I threw that one at you last minute, but like you said, the A&M line is an enigma. So it kind of just blows my mind, because I'm in love with Shamar Stewart as a prospect. But the people always want to throw in my face, well, how come you only had the 1.5 sack, and I don't have answers for him. But now hearing, I think Shamar talked about it. He said Dick Scorton talked about it. It sounds like Dick Scorton put it more depth about their game plan, where Shamar Stewart was just like, I'm not chasing the sacks every single time. Not every play is meant to be a sack. Where Nick,
that's the thing with Shamar Stewart, he's so dominant against the run, and I think we're going to see a guy 6'5 plus, 280 plus run and bend and all that stuff in workouts today. He's going to run something silly.
Yeah.
Like he's going to run 4 or 5 range at 280 pounds. And you can see that on film when he tracks stuff down.
Yeah.
So the things that I love about him is that he's great against the run. He plays with lots of power. He gives you incredible effort. You can see it all over his film.
Yeah.
To chase stuff down, it's not easy to do that. You have to really have a lot of desire to do that.
Yeah.
And I think he'll get there as a pass rusher. I think he's never going to be like a 50. He's not Myles Garrett. He's never going to be Myles Garrett. But it's pick 28. And my guess is in this class, he's a premium player. You're going to have to – he's not going to be available at 28. I'd be floored if he was.
I've been trading him in my mocks. I've been hitting up my old pal, Sean Payton, as Dan Campbell. Asking for that favor.
There you go.
I'm going to pick 20.
Yeah.
The name I threw into the mix I want to talk about as well was TJ Sanders. 6'3", 285 pounds, 12% pass rush win rate. Only 21 years old, but when I watched him play, Scott, I felt like he plays cerebral. Like I know a lot of people in Detroit, a lot of fans, I should say, are like, why can't you stop scrambling quarterbacks? Nobody can stop scrambling quarterbacks. That's why they're a freaking problem.
Yeah.
But this guy almost had a knack for it. I felt like he could read the quarterbacks on whether they want to run or not. He's almost just patient. I don't know. I really have appreciation for his game, but I get he's kind of undersized, a little bit of a tweener. What was your takeaway on TJ Sanders as a prospect?
So he's 6'3" and change, and he's going to be in the 290 range. So I would consider him a little more undersized. He's not quite as undersized as Peebles is, right? But another one of those undersized gap penetrating dudes, but I think his hands are heavier than Peebles. I think Peebles' quickness is different than TJ's. I think that's the
he's
quickness.
got a lot of hand swipes.
Yeah, he's constantly fighting with his hands, right? But I don't think he's got the get off or the quickness that Peebles does at all. It's a whole different world of things. But he's got upper body twitch where I think Peebles has has both the lower body first step stuff and the hand usage, where Sanders has more ability to get blockers off of him because of his upper body quickness, with the way he swipes with his hands and all that stuff, right? He's more of a pressure penetrator than he is a first step explosive player. So there is a little more calculated, not cautious, but there's a little more, it takes a little more time for him to win. And because of that, he's got to be better with his hands than some of the other ones are. He's got really good ability to extend his arms. I think there are times when he looks pretty good against the run, where he will stack, find the ball shed and go get it. He can do those kind of things. But then there are also times when he looks ridiculous as a pass rusher. Like, he does some really interesting things as a pass rusher through power. Yeah. He's got power. He's got really good power. Again, pad level. So being a little undersized, if you lose pad level, you're going to get moved. And that's sort of the thing is he going to hold up against the run all the time in the NFL?
That's why I'm getting beat.
Yeah, and he will get moved. I don't think he's going to get moved off the ball the way Peebles will. So I think there's more ability to hold up against the run than with some of the other guys. But he does struggle with his anchor, but there were a couple of games that were really good. Like the Georgia game was good early in the game before he got tired. And then I want to say Missouri was pretty good too. Again, there's plenty of power in his game, so I think he can hold up. It's just, are you going to ask this guy to do that all the time? My guess is no. My guess is this is rotational, more disruption piece than a full-time 3-down guy. But you do need that. And lastly, I just think that if he can add some more bulk, some functional power into his lower half, I think that'll help him.
Yeah.
But because he's got plenty of power, in his upper body and stuff, it's just, can he develop any of that stuff? We're talking about a 6'4", 6'3", whatever, 290 plus pound guy. Can he get to 305 and hold up? Maybe.
Yeah.
Good player. Very good player.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the bull rush. Like I said, I think he plays cerebral. The hand moves. I'm sorry. The hand placements. There was did we have anybody else on the list? I was looking at our text just now.
No, we're good.
No. Okay. Yeah, I think we got everybody on the list. Was there anybody that you wanted to make mention of or that you wanted to talk about briefly? Oh, you know what? Russ really likes Elijah Roberts, but maybe I should say that for him. Have him come by the heavyweight.
Save it for him. Yeah, save it for him.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you joining us, man. Linebackers next week?
We can do linebackers. We can do – I don't know that the Lions are going to draft one, so I don't know if you want to – we'll talk.
Okay. All right. I know my boy Spinny's he's 100% sold on Jihad Campbell.
At 28?
At 28.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Pretty electric athlete. Good football player.
Yes. I'm curious. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Let us know what defensive tackle prospects we may or may not have missed.
We could do another one. We could do another D tackle group next week.
Okay.
Because there's enough that we could do that.
Deep class. It really is. Yeah. Somebody else was telling me about someone from Alabama. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. The kid from Kentucky. This class is deep, man.
Ohio State's got one. Kentucky's got one. There's a bunch of stuff out there. Yeah.
Make sure you guys follow us at Lions Nation Unite. Again, be a friend, tell a friend, share the video. It'd mean the world to us. But if anything, make sure you smash that like button. Until next week, we are out.